In 1975, Japanese mountaineer Junko Tabei became the first woman in the world to climb to the summit of Mount Everest. Over the past 50 years, approximately 900 women have followed in her footsteps, defying cultural and physical barriers to reach the top of the world. My name is Tori James. I'm the first Welsh woman to climb Mount Everest, and I'm on a mission to shine a spotlight on this little-known but incredible woman and celebrate this 50th anniversary milestone by sharing stories from women around the globe who have also reached the summit of the world's highest peak. Welcome to the First Females podcast, Croeso, as we say in Wales. Today I'm joined by Manal Rostom, who in 2022 became the first Egyptian woman to climb to the summit of Mount Everest, aged 42. As well as a mountaineer, she is a marathon runner and has completed 6 world marathon majors. It is through athletics that Manal is most famous, becoming Nike's first hijabi athlete and ambassador. Manal is the founder of Surviving Hijab, a global community that empowers women who wear the hijab. In 2020, she was named Africa's top 50 most powerful women by Forbes Africa. And in 2021, she made the Arabian Business Power list of women of influence in the Arab world. Manal, thank you so much for agreeing to join me on the First Females podcast.
Thank you so much.
What a CV you have.
Thank
There
you.
is really so much to talk about today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tori.
I have to start by asking you about Everest and where the idea came from.
Okay, well, first of all, again, thank you so much for all that you do. I mean, I feel like it's a very important mission, especially in this day and age where women need a lot more space than they currently have. Whether it's like old or new or current or whatnot, like I feel like it's really important work. So thank you. I mean, I first found out about Everest, sat on a couch watching TV. We were watching, Egypt's most famous news broadcaster or anchor woman, announcing that the first Egyptian has finally climbed Mount Everest. That was May 2007. I remember my dad was like, "Oh my God, Manal, look what this guy has done." And I was like, because, obviously my dad knows how passionate I am or how passionate I was about athletics and sports and nature in general. He's obviously got like a tomboy in the house and so he was like, "Oh my God, look at what this guy has done." And it was Omar Samra. I remember the first thing I said, and I still remember this conversation clearly. I said, "Oh my God, I'd love to do this one day," only to be told by my dad that, "What, you're not a boy, just watch and learn, but you will never go off and climb a mountain. These are male-dominated sports. This is something that only a man can do." And I was like, and that made no sense whatsoever to me. And I remember just trying to digest what he was saying. And I'm like, what? Anyway, I was just so distracted, by this massive accomplishment. And, I started Googling Omar, I added him on Facebook, even before we had even ever met, fangirling, crushing, call it whatever it was. Stalking, and it's sending him loads of messages of how proud I was of him. To my surprise, he was actually replying and responding. And I saw that as a glimpse of hope. I was like, "Oh my God, this is so amazing," And I actually told him I would love to do this one day, but my dad thinks it's a male dominated sport. And I remember Omar would be like, "Yeah, but maybe it would take time to convince your dad," et cetera, et cetera. So long story short, fast forward 5 years, I decided I wanted to climb my first mountain with Omar's company actually at the time. So it was Kilimanjaro. And I remember my dad was like, "Yeah, but they eat human beings in Africa." I was like, "Dad, first of all, we are African. So, we do, Africans don't eat nobody." It's 2012 it was. And yeah, and then I just managed to convert my dad's mentality. And it went from, women don't climb mountains or girls don't climb mountains. I don't have girls or daughters who will climb mountains to I'm so proud that my daughter is now climbing,
And of course, we have to mention that we both know Omar,
Yeah.
Because it was Omar who I climbed to the summit with in 2007.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps. Crazy.
And let's hope he's listening.
He was definitely listening. Yeah. Thank you. And hi, Omar. Yeah.
I mean, that's wonderful. But that was back in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an incredibly long journey then to get you from that initial seed of an idea and a trip to climb in Africa.
So since Omar summited, like it took me 15 years to like work on my like, mountaineering resume, if you want. I started with Kilimanjaro, then I did Mount Kenya, and then I did Elbrus. And I remember doing Elbrus and thinking, okay, like I think I want to climb Mount Everest. Like it's when I reached the summit of Mount Elbrus in 2015. I used to set like a mountain a year sort of thing, because at the time I had like a full-time corporate job, and it's very hard to just like focus on mountaineering. Obviously now like I'm just like a freelancer, so it gives me a lot more chance to focus on my athletic goals or whatnot. But I remember when we reached the summit of Mount Everest, I remember thinking, I think I'm ready, not ready, but ready mentally, because Everest was like not in my, like on my radar. Like obviously it was like the ultimate dream, but I thought like it's such like a far-fetched goal, and I would be like crazy to even like, even dream it. But also how, like, I'm a desert girl. I was born and raised in Kuwait. Like I'm surrounded literally by oceans, and in some parts, I live in the UAE, and in some parts of the UAE, very, very, very small mountains, more like hills. I felt like I wasn't allowed to have this big dream, for a very long time.
And what is it you love about the mountains? Because lots of people can't think of anything worse than going somewhere that has limited oxygen, that is cold, where there are just basic, amenities. What is it you like about going to these places?
I think the obvious first thing is obviously the disconnect from city life and the, hardcore connect with nature. Like it's, I just like take this time to meditate and just like ponder over God's greatest creations, just like the beauty of the scenery, I don't know. There's just like something about mountains is just like teleports you to just like a different world, and especially again in this day and age, we're too connected. People are too anxious. Everything is just like anxiety triggering, I feel. And then once you go there, it's just like, shh, but also I feel like I love combining, the beauty of nature and the physical aspect of, whatever challenge I'm, heading to do, whether it's base camp or like a mountain, big or small. And also because you learn so much about yourself. Like it's like like a, how do you call it? Like an unpaid therapist, basically. You just like go and heal, and you just like you find out so much stuff about you, like good and bad. Obviously, you learn so much about human beings as well. And I always say that if you really want to get to know someone, just like climb a mountain with them, and then you'll either come back as friends forever, or you'll never speak to each other again. Yeah.
So tell us about your preparation for Everest then, because there's the physical side of it, the financial side, and the mental preparation to climb the world's highest peak.
I decided that I wanted to climb Mount Everest, like I said, like in my head in 2015, and then Omar actually sponsored my Everest Base Camp trek in 2016 with his company. Like I led a small group of people with his company at the time, and then I got like a random sponsorship to attempt Mount Aconcagua 2017 that wasn't successful. And just by the way, I later on, like I attempted Aconcagua 4 times. I summited this year finally, but for another time. Yeah, but like Aconcagua is the highest mountain in South America and in the Americas and Argentina. And then 2018, I said I wanted to do some technical climbing because I was in conversations with a guy who was trying to put all the Arab women who wanted to climb Mount Everest in 2019 together. And he was, telling us that we'll have sponsors, no need to worry about that. Just work on your like basic skills. So I went off, did Mont Blanc in 2018. only to be told later on that year that unfortunately no sponsors were secured for any of the women. Most of them are going to be going off and sorting out their sponsorships on their own. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, that's just like short notice. So I dropped out of the expedition. It was, I think, was one of the most heartbreaking things that have ever happened to me. Like even like I feel like I get so emotional because I remember I was like the most passionate one in the team about like climbing with these women in 2019. And then when I dropped out and then he replaced me with someone else, it was so heartbreaking. And I just felt like it was just so unfair that, sponsorships in general, not just for me, it's just so hard for women. And I never sorted out my sponsorship for this year. They summited. I mean, as much as I was happy and proud of them, but it was just like, I remember I was giving a talk in the UK on the same day and I found out and I was like, how will I even stand on stage? Like, I was crying. I wasn't sure if I was crying because I was sad that I missed out on this opportunity or because I was happy for them. Like, it was just like a mix of emotions. But then that even gave me more affirmation and confirmation that I really want to do it. Then the pandemic happened. And then I was like, oh my God. So the mountain was closed because I was like, okay, fine. I missed 2019. I'll do 2020. 2020, mountain closed. 2021, most expeditions were called off the mountain because a lot of people fell sick. And then I started talking to the first Arab woman to climb Mount Everest in 2021, May 2021. And I remember she had a she's very, she gives me tough love. Her name is Suzanne Al-Houbi, and she was like my mentor throughout this journey. Hopefully, you'll also interview her after this. And I remember she sat me down and she's like, if you want to do Everest, you're going to have to go off and sort out your sponsorship or pay for it yourself. But you've been saying for so many years, you want to climb Everest, you want to climb Everest. It's like the boy who cried wolf. You're either going to do it or let's just like close this topic and just like don't bring it up to media. Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, so you want to become the first Egyptian woman to climb Mount Everest. And then it would be like, yeah. And then some people got it wrong. They would be like, Manal Rostom is the first Egyptian woman to climb Mount Everest. I was like, no. It hasn't happened yet. Please remove or take it down. So she gave me tough love on that day. And I remember her looking me in the eye and she's like, you're the Nike girl. You need to just do it. I was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to just do it. So we worked together for an entire year, training mentally, and like obviously more mentally. And I was like preparing from the UAE, from Dubai, from the heart of our beautiful, the most glamorous city in Dubai. Yeah. She said, I'll lead a trip to Kilimanjaro with my company because she's got like a travel company as well, just to see how your body is doing like in like 6,000 meter peaks or whatever, almost. And I was so fine. Like when I did Kilimanjaro for the second time in 2021, I was like, oh my God, like I actually feel great. And then that's when the actual planning started. So summer 2021, did Kilimanjaro again with a group of girls, summited successfully. And then I did the Polar Circle Marathon because I wanted to see how my body would react in minus 20-degree weather in Greenland. And I was like, I'm just going to see because like, what if I freeze to death? Because I knew that I was going to be running for the entire 42 kilometers in minus 20 degrees. And then strangely enough, my layering was so perfect. I actually came out alive. I finished about like 6 hours plus, like, like way under the cutoff time. And that's when I really knew, okay, like, I think I'm ready. In Dubai, I was training, believe it or not. It makes a lot of people laugh, but like, it's there's this quote where you got to do what you can and use what you have and start where you are to make things happen for you. I trained in an indoor ski resort. I would just like wear my backpack or like a weighted vest, go up and down, wear my boots, go up and down, up and down. It was like -3. So I'd wear like thin layers. It was like, hopefully like my body will cooperate. So that was a funny story. I remember telling that story to my, teammates on base camp on Everest. Everybody would think I'm crazy. And then we had like an indoor rock climbing, like a wall. Again, I would just like, they sponsored me inside the mall. And I just like go up and down. And then it was like go time. So March 2022, my dad paid for Everest. So
Hmm.
he like I feel like my success story has gone from, girls don't climb mountains, according to my Egyptian father, to I'm gonna sponsor your Everest to help you become the first Egyptian woman. And honestly, I feel like that's a massive success story, way bigger than me summiting, because my dad was like 80 years old. It took a lot of courage for him to just like, throw me in the deep end of the ocean.
For sure. And how much was your drive to climb Everest a personal goal, or were you being driven by the fact that you might hopefully become the first Egyptian woman, or is there something else?
Look, it's funny that you asked that, because like I used to, plug this particular point to Suzanne in many of our conversations, because I just felt very egotistical and be like, is it okay to want to climb Mount Everest if I would just want to be the first? Because some people would be like, it's not enough a reason, to go off and do it. But now I feel like it's a big time enough a reason to go do off something. Like if you're gonna of course, provided you have passion for what you do. Like you can't, I can't not know how to be saving street cats and then just like want to be the first Egyptian one to save street cats. You got to have passion for a particular thing. But then if you find out that you're going to be the first, I mean, it's all about the first person to go to the moon, first person, to design something. It's all about the first, but it wasn't really set hard in my heart. Like, and I would worry that I was driven by ego, and I would talk to her and I'd be like, is it enough a reason? She's like, of course it's enough a reason, but you still want to really, 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 an emphasis on the really want it, and I only knew what she meant when I was suffering in Camp 2, and like Camp 2 was like, okay, that's what Suzanne, that's what Suzanne means. Because if you don't really, really, really want something, whether if it's like you're driven by ego or driven by a monetary goal or whatnot, Everest was purely a calling for me. It was, I just felt like, I know most people won't believe this, but like, it was really strange. Like, I would be driving, for example, in Jordan, and then I would look out of the window, and then like a car passes by me and it has like Everest on it. It's really weird. And I was like, oh my God, okay, what is this? Just like little signs, or like little kids walking up to me in my homestead and be like, you climbed Mount Everest. I was like, I really haven't yet, but I'm going to try my best to make that dream come true for both me and you. So I feel it was a calling. It was like how do you call it, a desire, to make history for my country, and just like obviously a lot of pride. And I remember thinking, when I was really suffering, because I suffered during my rotations, I mean, obviously, but no one talks about that, and I'd really like to talk about that. I was the slowest in the team, weakest on the team. My entire team was from Colorado, the USA. Like their backyard is like an ice climbing wall, and then enter Manal Rostom, who climbed in an indoor ski resort, on artificial ski slopes and artificial climbing walls, and it really made me feel insecure. It made me feel insecure of my ability, to achieve those things, and whether I was actually going to summit or not. You know, yeah.
And when you turned up at Everest Base Camp, there are people from around the world. You're climbing with a team you haven't met before.
Mhm.
Did you meet them at base camp?
I met them. I met them in Kathmandu. So we all met in
Okay.
Kathmandu first. And I remember I just felt like, wow, like I really feel like I'm the ugly duckling of the team, because like obviously I was the only Arab, the only brown girl on the team. I mean, I don't know if you'll ever understand the feeling, but you just really feel like you're standing out for the wrong reasons, but you're also trying so hard to fit in, and you just feel like you're being these are my feelings. I mean, whether people say like we don't know why she felt like that or not, but this is how I felt, and I feel like my feelings are valid, because it contributed a lot to my PTSD after the mountain and imposter syndrome, and whether I actually deserve to stand on top of Everest. But like, I remember wanting to, I was like, I grew up, I was raised in an international British school. Like I was like, I speak, 4 languages, learning the fifth now. But like, I was like, I hope they come and speak to me so that like They find out how cool I am because they're obviously going to judge me by how I look. I'm brown. I wear the hijab, you know, and I was trying to make friends with most of them. I only got along with a few, very few. And then I just, after we did Le Boucher, so we did the Le Boucher as like the training peak, a 6,000er. That's when I really shut down Tori, and I was like, you know what? I remember crying so hard in the tent and telling my guide, like, I just like, nobody's talking to me. I'm like the social butterfly at home. You know, I have thousands of followers and people stop me in the street to come say hi. Meanwhile, I'm sat in the base camp of Le Boucher alone. Nobody wants to talk to me. It was just like, it was just such a weird feeling. And, you know, I shut down and I was like, I'm just going to focus on my expedition. You know, I'm only here for another 6 weeks, like make it or break it, you know. And yeah, so that was a big part of the hardship of Everest. You know, they talk about mental, physical, but like the loneliness of it is really real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how did you move on from that? You know, that you haven't even got to base camp at this stage,
Yeah.
and you're feeling like this.
You just have to keep reminding yourself, you know, why are you here? Why are you here? And it's like to stand on top of the world, to make history for my country, to become the first Egyptian woman, to raise the Egyptian flag as first female in a 120 million population country, you know? And I remember I would keep asking myself, you know, because again, you know, a few times I would be like, is it really worth, like, excuse my language, but like we're shitting in a hole for like the entire duration of like 2 months. I live in Dubai, one of the most glamorous cities in the world. I go to the spa at least once a week, you know, so it was just like such a transformation, you know, and I'm like, is it really worth it? You know, and I'm like, wait a second. So, you know, at that time, media had started to pick it up that, you know, there's an Egyptian woman on Everest attempting. And I remember I was like, I'm just going to shut it out. Like, I'm not going to get distracted by it. I don't want to speak to anybody. I refused to speak to anybody while I was on the mountain. I said, let me summit first. And even after, I didn't want to speak to many people. I just felt like they didn't deserve to hear the story because I was not supported at all by anyone in the country. Nobody. Like, I mean, you know, the men find it so easy to find sponsors. I found zero, despite having over 100,000 followers at the time. You know, most of my accomplishments as whether it's a Nike ambassador or my accomplishments as a marathon runner were already way underway, you know, way before Everest. And I thought this would give me, you know, like a chance, but zero. And I remember thinking, if social media just disappears and nobody finds out about this, except obviously like my close friends and family, would I still do Everest? And the answer was yes, 100%. And that's when I really knew that I really wanted this, as much as Suzanne kept saying, you must really, really, really want it, you know, to achieve it. And I was like, let's just go. Let's go.
So the mountain itself, what were the most challenging bits of the climb once you were above base camp?
It's emotional to just like think back, honestly. The Kumbu icefall was really harsh for me. I mean, like waking up, just like from the moment they wake you up. And for me, because I was very slow, they had to wake me up way earlier. So some people were waking up at 2 or 3 a.m. I'd wake up at 11 because I'd have to start at 12 a.m. Because the first time when I first attempted Kumbu icefall, I was so shocked, you know, and I reached the ping pong, you know, area. It's just like a little bit under Camp 1. And then
it's still called that.
Yeah, nothing changed, Tori. Yeah, it's been 17 years or 18 years for you. Nothing changed. Yeah. So I remember my guide saying, "We're not going to make it on time, and it's starting to get really dangerous. We're going to go down." And I was like, "Oh my God, no, 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 no! You're not like this. My expedition is not over." He's like, "No, we're just training. This was just training. Go down. You know, go back to your tent." And it was also my time of the month. And also nobody speaks about that. I never stopped, you know, my menstrual cycle. I didn't take pills for it. I didn't plan for it. I just thought, you know, it's more natural to just like let your body, you know, be natural than to actually, you know, like give yourself pills or whatnot. So then the second time it was better, and obviously the third time was better, and the fourth time was better. But like just like climbing in the dark, nobody also ever talks about that. It's one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life. Just to like climb in the dark. It's like all you can hear is hush, hush, hush. People's crampons, and everybody's so serious. No one is talking. People are either taking over each other. It's super serious. I remember breaking down multiple times the first time when I saw the ladders and I had to cross the crevasses. And I was like, I can't do this. And I remember one woman was ahead of me. I think she was German or Austrian. I can't remember. I never got a chance to speak to her because she broke down. And the minute she started crying, I just immediately started crying. It was just like a domino effect. Like I felt like I needed her to cry so that I can like start crying. So that was the first thing. Camp 2 was the hellish, like it was the most hellish thing ever. It's cold. You can't breathe. You can't sleep. You can't eat. I was nauseous, throwing up endlessly, coughing endlessly. And then it's walking over the dead bodies. That was just like never left my, just right before you stand on top of the world. And then people ask you, how did you feel? And I'm like, I felt nothing standing on top of the world after all this, but just because of the, the deep traumatizing scene of seeing what ego can do, if it's ego, or if you're driven by your dreams, what your crazy dreams can do. Because you see like the end result, right? It's like lying right in front of you, and it's death, and then you just got to process that and just like pretend like you haven't seen anything. I mean, forget being fragile as a woman or vulnerable, or you just got to be like, okay, I just need to put another foot in front of the other and keep going. I remember seeing two bodies on the Hillary step. One is like roped from 2019, 52-year-old American man who, died after summiting. I think it was lack of oxygen. And then there was another person roped between, a crevasse. And, they told me like I was gonna, like one of the climbers who had summited a couple of days before me, she met me in Camp 2 and she's like, Manal, just FYI, you're gonna be walking over dead bodies. I said, yeah, it's fine. I saw it on TV. It's fine. It's way different, seeing something like that and watching it on TV or watching it on Netflix or, like a Hollywood produced movie or whatnot. It's just crazy,
Yeah, it really brings to the fore the risks that are around you.
Yeah.
And so that was sadly on your ascent to the summit of Everest. Tell me about the summit then for you. What was that like? It's so different for everybody.
So I remember breaking down in Camp 2 on May 6th, 2022. And, I was keeping like video diaries. I wasn't planning on sharing everything, but I remember coming out to the world and saying, I don't think I'm going to make it. Like, this is really, really, really tough. Because like none of the Everest summiteers that I was following ever described how brutal the climb was. I mean, fine, they say it's hard. Yeah, but define hard. Is it hard or is it harsh? And what do you mean by saying, is it hard? Is it hard because, you're physically tired? It's Everest is brutal. Like, you're by yourself. Your emotions need to be in check. Your, physical, ability needs to be in check. Your mental strength needs to be in check. Your food, just like there's so much to take care of. And really nobody talks about that, or nobody talked about that. So I felt I was like the first person to come out and say, this stuff is really like no one has ever talked about it. It's really hard. And I think it was me giving them a heads up that I don't think I was going to make it. I didn't think I was going to make it, honestly, really. Like after doing my last rotation, I was like, if I'm dying like this, because it was my second rotation, I reached Camp 2. Again, I was vomiting, nauseous, couldn't eat. And I was like, how am I going to go to the top of the world? Like, and I kept telling my guide, I was like, are you guys crazy? Like, can't you see? you know? And he says, just like wait until you start using oxygen. And I had no idea what oxygen would do. I remember coming down from, the second rotation and telling my guide, I need to have a meeting with everybody. Like I need to have a meeting with the owner of the company, the head of the Sherpas, you, and that's it. Closed meeting room. Because I have some questions. And I remember sitting them down and I'm like, Manal, don't cry. Do not cry. Please be the strong woman that you're like, cry before, after, but don't cry when you're in that room, because I've shown enough weakness. And that was after I posted that video of me crying to like my 100,000 plus followers at the time. And I remember it going viral. But because like I had obviously like two sort of like responses. So one side would be like, no, you've come so far to only come this far. And some people are like, if you're miserable, please leave, safety. We are already so proud of you, etc. So I just tried to stay away from the comments. I was like, I'm just sharing this just in case I don't summit. So in the meeting, I just said, guys, I don't think I'm going to make it. If you think that I'm going to go up again for my third and final rotation, and still not make it, like, I'm just going to fly out. I'm going to book my helicopter tomorrow. And I just want to, I'm done. Like enough humiliation, enough suffering. And I remember Mike was saying, we acknowledge the slow pace. We acknowledge everything that you're saying. However, you are slow and you feel weak, but you are like, you're fresh. You come back to the tent after every rotation and we're watching, you're happy, you're talking to everyone. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe because I'm happy that I'm back to base camp, but he said, no, but really, like, you're in such a good state of mind. And we feel like this is so, so, so important, as opposed to someone who's feeling sick and then just comes back and retreats to their tent and they just don't talk to anybody. So he suggested that we buy extra oxygen, which was like super expensive, but I was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Just because, obviously that was not in your time. Now you can start oxygen from camp 2, to start your summit push, So we did that and it was magic, Tori. Like it was completely magical. Yeah. Like it was like transformation. I remember my guide would look at me, he's like, Manal, wow, what is this? I was like, I don't know. Like, he's like, this is amazing. I was like, thank you, But also, in all fairness, even before that, walking from camp 1 to camp 2, that used to get me sick because of like, how hot it is. Cause like, you're surrounded by mountains. It's so beautiful, but you're so close, to the sun. It's so brutally hot. I was also,
so many people don't appreciate that, as well as worrying about the cold and about frostbite, you're also worrying about sunstroke and sunburn.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I remember I was also quite fast even before I had started oxygen. And I remember he was like, what happened? Like, I remember this walk used to take me like 6-7 hours. It only took us 4 that day in my last rotation. That was before oxygen. And it was just like all shifting the mindset. Like, when I posted that video and it went viral, I remember vividly 3 messages that made me really, obviously I got tons and I'm not underappreciating anyone's, but like there are 3 messages that really stuck with me. The first one was from like an 8 or 9-year-old boy from my home city in Alexandria, Egypt. His name was Hamza. I had never met him before. I actually met him after I climbed Mount Everest. It was such a special moment. But he said, Miss Manal, like, we're so proud of you. And whether you decide to finish or not, but we really want you to stand on top of the world. I was like, oh my God, like, don't do that. Like, that's like just like pressure, So that was Hamza. I was like, okay, fine. It's like, that's when you really realize your story is not about you. It's not about what you achieve personally. It's about everyone that you inspire, everyone who's waiting for you to achieve this goal so that they can sort of like get green light that their crazy dreams are also acceptable, if you want, coming from a very environment, if you want, for these kind of sports, And then I also, I received a message from Ime Archibongi. He like a former VP of Facebook, and we had worked together in a few projects. in 2018, 2019. And that's when I was like, oh my God, even he's watching. Like, damn. It's like everyone is watching. And he was like, whether you decide to continue or not, you've already attempted something that not many people have attempted in the world. And we're very proud of you. So just do what you can, and we'll be proud of you. So I was like, okay. And then the last message was from a girl. Her name was Huda, who was a member of our Surviving Hijab community. And she was like, we're all with you. You're taking 1 million women, hijabi women, to the top of the world. I was like, oh my God. And that's just when you realize it's like, okay, I'm not alone. I have the kids with me, like, my community, the one that I have, created, they're all with me. So I just felt like I really wasn't alone. And that's just like really, it just helped with like the whole mind shift,
It's that extended team that, we sometimes don't realize that's around us, our cheerleaders, people we've never met before, obviously gave you that boost that you then needed to get in the right mindset for reaching the top.
100%. So I owe a lot of people, like, this is for them. This is for everyone. It's not just, obviously it was a personal goal, but I hope everyone, who has contributed to supporting me, or like following my journey at the time, I hope this acts as a reminder that, if you're brave enough to dream so big, the dream becomes much more near and much more doable. And anybody who's anyone, because like I take pride in the fact that I grew up in a very different environment, culturally as well. You don't get to dream about things that you don't normally see, and just because you don't see people who look like you anywhere doesn't mean that you can't be the first to go off and do these things, or like be the first person to achieve these goals.
And of course, your summit date was the 16th of May.
Yeah.
Which is the same as Junko Tabei's summit date in 1975. What are your lasting memories from the summit?
I remember feeling really strong when I got to Camp 4. I remember feeling really, really strong. And I remember, it's the first time you actually see Everest. It's the first time you actually see, the actual peak. And I just remember thinking, wow, imagine I actually make it. I was in a very good headspace. I was I felt really strong, obviously with oxygen and everything. And my guide was amazing. His support to me, like we just lived in our own world for these few weeks attempting, because it was going to be his 4th summit. And it also meant a lot for him to be taking the first Egyptian woman, to the top of the world. I remember arriving in Camp 4 at around 10 a.m. and he said, you need to sleep as soon as possible. I said, how? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm so excited. It feels like I'm on the moon. You really feel like you're walking on the moon, because it's like, it's just so majestic. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like open space. And then there's just like Everest is hovering on top of you. And we had the best weather window. Like, it was amazing. I managed to go to sleep. I woke up. I remember I placed a call on May 15th to my parents, and I was like, what if this is like the last call? What if I'm going to die? It's just so hard, So, it was just like, I just had the perfect, I think, summit push, like pre-summit day, I feel. And then we decided to take off at 6 p.m. So it was beautifully, like, it was a full moon. And the moon was like right there. And I felt supported. I was like, even, like everybody's supporting me, even the moon, like, the moon is right there. I remember, my headlamp died, and like, I didn't need it because it was really that bright. Really. It was really that bright. Until I reached the balcony, and that's when like things got a bit crazy for me. I think I got a panic attack at 8,600, because I had been on autopilot. I mean, the entire night was autopilot for me, but like when I reached 8,600 meters, I just started to panic because like it was starting to get darker. It was like around 11 p.m. I looked down and all I could see was just like, these little, like light bulbs or whatever, their headlamps. And it was just like so quiet, but then the wind was starting to pick up, and it was so scary. Like it was just like terrifying. And I just kept thinking, what if I can't like inhale properly? And I was like, okay, fine, let me try. So I was just like trying to inhale. It was a panic attack. It was 100%. Like, my chest was shutting down. And then I remember telling Anoop, my guide, Anoop, can you check my oxygen? He said, full tank, you're good. I'm like, no, check. So he was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know, I just can't breathe. He's like, you have full tank. I'm like, okay, up the flow, because I think he had me at 1 or something. And he's like, fine, I'll give you 2. I'm like, no, give me more. But then at that moment, it's whatever you're thinking about is just like BS, and it's taking over you. And then I was like, okay, fine, we just need to stop. And he's like, no, why are you stopping? I was like, I don't know, like I feel like I'm gonna die. And he's like, don't say that. And then I remember telling him on base camp, if I panic, this is what you do. You look me in the eye, you're very calm, you hug me even if you want to, but just like be very, very, very calm so that I can calm down. He did the exact opposite. He started yelling. I don't know why they always do that. Like my guide in Argentina did the same exact thing. I don't know what is wrong with them. Like men, I feel freak out when women panic. I feel, for another conversation. Anyway, but I just felt like I couldn't breathe, and then I said, I need to decide what I'm going to do. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I think I want to go down. And he said, what? I'm like, I can't breathe. I said, can we go down and try tomorrow? He said, no, we come down, we go down all the way to base camp. I was like, oh my God. I was like, no, you're not doing this. I was like, you're not going to be the first Egyptian woman to attempt and go back down and say you turned around at 8,600. That's exactly what I thought at that particular moment. I was like, what am I going to tell people? Like, what happened there? So I had 45 minutes. I was just like sitting like this, trying to breathe and trying to calm myself down. And then I remember my legs started to shake because I was so cold. Because when you're not moving, it doesn't matter whether you're on oxygen or not. I remember my guide said, that's it. You decide. We're going down or moving up. You're shaking. I said, fine, I'm moving up, but like, we're going to go really slow. So from that moment till 6:30 a.m., all I remember was me like just like putting one foot in front of the other, praying that I don't die. And I'm like, fine, if I die, then God wants me to die. That's it, because I've only come this far. And then I think my summit moment was when I saw the summit at like 5 a.m. I feel that was my moment. It wasn't when I actually stood on top of the world, because that was my moment. I saw it and he's like, Manal, look. I was like, oh my God, it's happening, and the dawn was breaking, and it was just so magical. It was like twilight, sort of like, I don't know, like it was just like lilac color, the sky was lilac, and it was just so beautiful. And then the Hillary step, and then you see the dead people, and then you stand on top of the world. But I will never forget my panic attack at 8,600 meters, and that's when I was like, the moment I come down, I need to go get this sorted. Like I need meds or something,
What's your biggest learning from, I mean, obviously you learned about what it's like to feel the fear, I guess, and be on that summit ridge. But what other learnings have you taken from the mountains?
I feel like the number one learning is that the world needs a lot more education about different cultures. People still lack knowledge. Like, for example, I had one guy from Canada ask me what language they speak in Egypt. I mean, I'm sorry, but like, it's Egypt. Like, you should know that we speak Arabic, in most parts of the Middle East. I mean, come on, like, I mean, if it was like maybe 100 years ago, yeah, you can ask that question. I mean, I'm happy to answer these questions, obviously, but like, I don't know, it's just like me asking someone, what language do they speak in Wales, or what language do they speak in Australia? I just feel like, I mean, obviously, I know that you have a different like language, like you have Welsh too, right? But also, it's like the most spoken language is English. I had someone ask me on base camp, a guy from the States. I don't know what his intention was, but I remember him asking me whether I climb. And I'm like, okay, do you mean like which other mountains have I climbed, or what? What's that question? Like, how could you ask someone who's attempting Mount Everest if you climb? Like how, like, I don't know. It's just like such patronizing, self-limiting question, I was like, yeah, I'm just like trying to finish the 7 summits. So he's like, oh, okay. So you've climbed other mountains. Yeah, like obviously, like, I don't know. Do people just like decide to want to climb Everest and they just like take off to Everest? I don't know. Is that something people do?
Some people may aim for that as the starting point, but my goodness,
crazy.
There's a lot to learn.
Yeah, so I just feel like, I mean, just like my parents invested so much, to make me turn out the way I am. I mean, I feel like sometimes they think it's a curse, but like, I just try to be like a good girl in like other departments or whatever. But like, I just feel like the world needs a lot more education. Like people need to take time. It needs to be taught in school, like different cultures, not just geography and like geographical locations. No, teach kids about different cultures, different skin colors, different languages, so that a 42-year-old woman attempting Everest from the desert doesn't get ridiculous questions that might really distract her and make her feel less or small. I also learned that, no matter how big the dream is, if you really have passion and heart for what you do, like you can make it happen. Like no matter what happens, like anyone who sets their mind to doing something, provided that they really want to do it and they have passion for it, they can really do it.
I truly believe that. I mean, that is the motivator. That is the driving force. That is, how you know if you're heading in the right direction. And you're really a story about being in tears in London when, an opportunity to climb was taken away from you, proved exactly that you wanted it. And you made it. And how was your Everest summit received back in Egypt?
Well, like the Dubai airports, they threw me a party that was very special. Yeah, it was it was really, really, really special. I was like a red carpet. I was like, wait, what's happening? When I first landed in Dubai, because I was like flying from Kathmandu to Dubai. In Egypt, my family threw me a party in the airport, so it wasn't like organized by the government. I was recognized by a few ministers. Have not been recognized yet by the president, which is kind of sad. I mean, it was like a gush of, like media wanted to like interview me, of course. But for me, when you come down from Everest with PTSD, I mean, you know what it feels like to come down, and you're in a funk for the longest time until you unfunk yourself, basically. I just wanted to speak to people who really understood. Like, I didn't want people to ask like stupid questions like, so tell us, was it hard? Like the moment someone asks me that, it's like, okay, like I really need to leave the conversation. Like, like you don't ask, whether Everest was hard. It's obviously hard. I'd rather you ask me how was it than whether it was hard or not. Like, what do you expect me to say? Oh no, it was just like a walk in the park. Yeah, I only shit in a hole for 2 months and I was away from family during Ramadan and Eid, and no, so yeah, and then I didn't want to speak to anyone, honestly. And then my dad said, you have to speak to someone. Like, you can't like not shut yourself out like this. I think, Tori, you know what? I felt like because I didn't have any support, mainly financially, you can't just like celebrate me when I win. I just felt like that, you didn't believe in me, when I went out and set out to achieve this goal. But then you want to celebrate me? Like, I didn't feel like anyone deserved to hear the story. So I did 2 big interviews with like, like people that I liked, or people that I liked their shows. And I believe that, they really, really want to hear about the story, including that lady who was interviewing Omar in 2007. And I shared that story that she was probably, Mona Shazli, her name. And, you know, she's got like the biggest show in Egypt. And I was like, you're kind of like, you're the reason why I climbed Mount Everest. And she's like, what? Me? How come? And, you know, no, it's like, and I told her the story. So it was, yeah, it was funny, you know?
And it is so challenging. You know, you go off and you do these big peaks, and there is a period afterwards where suddenly that goal that you've been working towards for months or years is taken away from you. And I think you haven't got that direction, and you can feel a little bit lost and I guess depressed. You know, you've stood on top of the world, and suddenly you sort of left saying, well, what's next, and where do I go from here? Manal, your biggest achievements, and we've just got a short amount of time to talk about these, but was that you, before Everest, were the first hijabi athlete to model in a Nike running campaign. You know, you have done so much, even before Everest, to, I guess, increase the representation of Muslim women in sport across the world. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that meant to you, being that first superstar of that advert and campaign for Nike?
That was like a life-changing moment, honestly, because it just didn't, you know, blow me up on social media, like in terms of like my following and, you know, how much people knew about me, but also it just gave me a lot more purpose and just made me realize that it's a huge responsibility to take on that role. You're not just like a face, you know, in an ad, you know, locally or internationally or whatnot, but like you're really gonna, you know, change the narrative for these little girls so that, you know, whether they choose or decide to wear the hijab or not, they are reminded that they can be athletes. And that's a very, you know, I feel like that's a very important message that I felt, you know, was on my shoulders, and it still is on my shoulders. But, you know, thankfully, right now, the narrative has changed. There's so many brands. It's not just Nike. A lot more international brands have jumped on the wagon. They are catering for Muslim hijabi girls. They are recruiting, you know, hijabi athletes and hijabi models. And, you know, it was just like a revolutionary moment, you know, when Nike decided to, you know, take me on board and do these things, you know, because it really, really did change the world for us and reminded us that we can fit in. And remember how, you know, lonely I felt, you know, on my Everest trip. Again, I was reminded that there still needs to be a lot more work that needs to be done, but we're at least working towards it. You know, like these conversations that we're having right now, whether people agree or not, that is the case. I'm the one living it. So it's like I'm the one in the face of the storm. You know, your opinion does not matter if you are not in my shoes. You know, come into my shoes and then see the world the way I see it. You know, feel the way I feel. It can be really tough, you know, especially that I'm not like I'm not the kind of woman that goes like, yeah, like I don't care what people think. No, I do care. You know, of course I care. You know, I'm gonna be living with these people for like 2 months. Of course I care how they see me, what they think of me, what they think about my culture, because all people think is like, like, geez, do you have a camel back home? It's like, come on, stop being an idiot. You know, I mean, those things were funny back in the days, but like they're not funny anymore. Come on, you know. You need to know that, you know, we have the most advanced technologies. Like Dubai itself is like the most glamorous city in the Middle East. And I live here, you know, very proudly calling this city my home. You know, is actually one of the richest, one of the most expensive cities. Like you need to be a lot more open-minded. Like go watch, you know, Emirati women speaking in conferences who've gone to like the likes of Harvard and, you know, London Business School or, you know, Oxford. Like they're like very well-educated women. And no, my husband doesn't beat me, you know, and he doesn't want me to leave the house. Like these stupid things, you know. So I just feel like it was just like, you know, a chance, I'm not married, by the way, obviously. It's like if someone thinks I'm like referring to my husband, but I'm just like saying, because people are like, yeah, they're like, did your dad force you to wear that? Actually, my dad doesn't like the hijab, just FYI. But again, for another conversation, it was just like my pure, it was just like me wanting to give back, and because it's a compulsory form of worship, and I decided to take it on. But we always say that it is compulsory, but we don't force our women to wear it. Plus, I practice, like, I fast the month of Ramadan. I pray 5 times a day. So it only made sense for me to cover as well. But I really, really, I still strive to have people see undercover, or like see what's beneath all this, away from judgments, away from pre-misconceptions, stereotyping and all this. We still have so much work to do. Oh my God. Yeah. But we're here.
And you're running this incredible network of women surviving hijab, and just that idea started. Just tell us a little bit about how that began and where it's at now.
So in 2014, it had only been like a few years since I moved to Dubai, and honestly, it was so challenging for me to fit into the sports scene, because it's mainly Western here. I mean, now again, it has changed, but I'm talking about 2012, 2013, 2014. Now it's completely changed, the sports scene in the UAE and in the Middle East. There are a lot more sports communities that are welcoming locals and Arabs and hijabis and stuff. But back in the day, I was really one of the fewest girls running. Not one, like there was only me and this other girl, and we're now friends, obviously, because we used to see each other. When you like, I don't know, when you meet someone Welsh and you hear them speak Welsh, and like, let's say in Japan, and you're like, oh my God, you're Welsh too? Oh my goodness, I'm Welsh. And then you bond instantly. It's exactly the same thing with the hijab, or like, when I saw like a Muslim girl running, and her name is Marwa. And we were like, I remember seeing her on my first half marathon. I was like, oh my God, there's another Muslim girl. It's crazy. Everyone else is like running in, shorts. Obviously the ideal thing to run in, like, exercise bras or whatnot. And then I'm like coming in like layers upon layers upon layers, So I just feel like it's changing, and I feel like in 2014, I wanted to remove my hijab at some point. Like I wanted to, because I was not fitting in, I just felt like, what? I just don't feel like I can carry on like this, because it's really limiting me. It's limiting how people see me. Obviously now I have grown a little bit of thick skin. I can, I'm obviously like a public speaker, a public figure, whatnot. I need to live up to my, role in society. But like back in the days, I was nobody. Like no one knew me. I had a private account. I was not shy, but like shy to speak about these things openly for fear of what people would say. So I said I was going to create an online community to help start and strike conversations about these things and see where it goes. And it just took off. Like, I mean, we went from 40 girls I added as like a private community. By the way, anybody can join. You don't have to be Muslim. You don't have to be covered. You have to be a female that supports another female's choice in practicing or exercising her religion any way, shape, or form that she wants, whether she wishes to, cover or not. But it's like a platform, for open conversations for women, and it's women's only. A lot of my Christian friends are on it. A lot of my atheist friends are on it. They're trying to learn, and just like trying to treat. But see, that's how we create change. These are the kind of conversations that we need to have. We need to have an open forum, free of judgments, free completely. We're not like pointing fingers. It's not your fault that you were born Welsh. It's not my fault that I was born, Muslim. Sometimes we don't choose these things. But yeah, and then it just blew up to 40,000 women from 70 women that I had added by hand. And then I got this crazy idea to write to Nike in November 2014. I wrote to them, and I wrote to Coach Tom Wolfe, who he was the head coaches of Nike Middle East at the time. And, I hustled and I got his email, and I remember attaching the link to the Facebook group at 40,000. And my recent first ever TV interview, where I felt like my heart was going to stop, because it was like live TV. And he just said he wanted to meet me. And then within 2 months, I became the first ever hijabi athlete to be featured in a Nike Middle East campaign. And then I went off to starting my own run club, like encouraging more locals. And honestly, at that time, it was just like things took off for me. Facebook recognized the group as one of the fastest growing groups in the world. And we're currently the biggest hijab wearing community in the world. I was invited to speak in San Francisco to 5,000 people, my biggest audience yet, to a room really full of non-Arabs, non-Muslim. I think it was one of, again, the scariest things I've ever done. I remember receiving like a standing ovation. I was like, oh my God, wow, yay, like they accept me, that sort of thing, and then we won the Facebook Community Leadership Award. We started doing like, projects here and there. We hit 1 million 4 years ago. I'm not really monetizing it as much as I should because it didn't start out with the intention to monetize. I mean, I obviously, go and speak, about Surviving Hijab. Like it's a part of my story. It's like one of, most successful part of my story. But, we run a few ads. It's still growing. We are also on Instagram. Anybody can follow us. We just shed light on inspiring hijabi women who do incredible things. I really think I should start a podcast, but like I'm just too lazy focusing on my mountains. Yeah, the Surviving Hijab podcast is coming. Yeah.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. Definitely. But for now, it's like just it's just still a platform to help remind any girl that she can be whatever she wants to be, whether she decides to cover or not, in a world where, somebody looks at me and especially now with all the political tension in the region, if I'm pro-Palestine, which is pro-humanity, it's like, oh, you're a terrorist. It's just really bad. Like, so I just feel like it's important conversations that need to be had,
Well, Manal, you are doing so much to make the world a better place.
I'm trying. Thank you.
I'm really in awe of all of the things that you have achieved.
Thank you.
Everest is just a part of that. Thank you so much for sharing your story as part of the First Females podcast today. Would you like to share any social media links or anything with people so that they can follow you? I'm sure a lot of people will be wanting to follow your onward journey.
So I'm at Manal Rostom on Instagram and TikTok. So it's at MANI Rostom, one word, on Instagram, and then at Manny.Rostom on TikTok. I'm also on Threads. I'm on YouTube. Please follow Surviving Hijab as well on Instagram.
Well, thank you. And I'd love to welcome you to Wales at some point. There are definitely adventures to be had here. I love what you've shared with us today.
Who's going to interview you? Who's going to interview you for your story?
Well, there is going to be.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, you have something planned.
Yes, that's lined up.
Okay.
Watch this space.
Amazing.
It will be following.
Amazing.
I love what you've said about being brave enough to dream, really, having passion and heart in all that you do. And I know that we're going to see you go on to do some incredible things in the future as well.
You.
So Manal Rostom, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, Tori. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the First Females podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired to step outside of your comfort zone, embrace the outdoors, and experience the magic of the mountains. If so, then why not celebrate this 50th anniversary milestone by organising an adventure of your own? Get a group together, go for a walk, climb a hill, and remember to share the story of Junko Tabay. I would absolutely love to hear about what you get up to, so please do connect with me on my socials, which can all be found in the show notes, or find me at torijames.com. To finish, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Hugh James and Bethan Lee for all their help, expertise and support in bringing this podcast to you. Until next time, let's honour the courage and determination of Junko and the women who have climbed before us. Dream big and climb high. Hwyl fawr, goodbye.